Welcome to the Pariah Nation YouTube debut. Pariah Nation is an organization that aims to educate the African youth on major topics within the field of African politics, history, and philosophy. We will be focusing on events that are closely linked to the continent itself, while also drawing on the experience of the African diaspora. So today we will be discussing the flagrant misrepresentation of the African historical narrative on the world stage. Articles, newspapers, educational institutions, and the media at large have portrayed Africa as a dark continent with no history or story other than that of poverty and suffering. The effect of this ignorance is that Africa has effectively been relegated to the position of an afterthought in the larger dimension of world history. This, however, is unsurprising. A major part of transatlantic slavery and the colonial enterprise was justified by the presumption that Africans were primitive and uncivilized beings. A great example of the popularization of this narrative is the poem The White Man's Burden by Rudyard Kipling. The poem asserts that the white man, whom the author perceives to be the superior race, is obliged to civilize the rest of the world and bring them closer to a state of humanity. It therefore comes as no surprise that when Karl Marx, a German explorer in 1871, visited the ruins of Great Zimbabwe, he thought that the palace was a copy of the building, and I quote, "where the Queen of Sheba lived during her visit to Solomon," close quote. And that perhaps, and I quote, "a civilized nation, implying white, once lived there," close quote. He would rather attribute these amazing feats of architecture to allegedly white biblical characters than accept that it was in fact black Africans that built the stone structures. Unfortunately, these ideologies that were skeptical of any African achievements took hold in historical circles and were propagated as the truth in educational systems around the world. It is for this reason that we all learn about the First and Second World Wars, yet we will never learn about the African contributions to the war. We will never learn that over 1 million African troops participated in World War I, or that 150,000 of them died while doing so, essentially serving a political cause that never truly concerned them. The rest of the world, but mainly Europe, will be heralded for their contributions to the fields of mathematics and science, yet we will never hear of the stories of Africa's intellectual contributions to the world. We will never hear that the first continually operating university in the world was located in Morocco. Al-Qawariyyin was the first of many universities to spring up in Africa, but it seemed that even this basic information has fallen prey to the whitewashing of history, as you can see by making a quick Google search on the topic. Further south, the University of Sankore rose to prominence in the medieval period, producing over 700,000 manuscripts and developing some of the greatest scholarly minds in Africa's history. We will often hear that Europe pioneered the steam engine and is apparently the one and only reason we have access to the technology that we use today. Meanwhile, the proponents of this argument discount the indirect contributions that other parts of the world have made to these fields. They will gladly ignore the contributions that the Islamic Golden Age made to European scientific thought and disregard scholars such as Al-Khwarizmi from Persia despite its contributions to the concept of algorithms, a concept that is essential for us in the modern day. African contributions have been ignored in a similar way, and one would be met with astonishment if they even suggested that mathematical tools originated in Africa. However, that skepticism would be untenable when put up against historical evidence. One of the earliest mathematical tools in the world actually does originate from Africa, the Ishango bone. Found on the borders of Uganda and the Democratic Republic of Congo, this bone is said to have been used by the locals to perform simple mathematical operations from as early as 25,000 years ago. The truth is that African history is largely unknown to the world, not because it's irrelevant, but because of the intentional colonial erasure that it has been subjected to over the centuries. Unsurprisingly, this has resulted in the ubiquitous ignorance we observe both in the West and in other facets of the international community. Here at Pariah Nation, we aim to challenge the narrative that for too long has degraded and understated the importance of African history. Join us as we uncover the lost secrets of our continent's history while engaging in a critical discussion about what that means for us today.